106.7 FM.
Minutes past 8 on a wonderful Tuesday morning. Thank you for joining us. This is the Integrity Station. We are called Splash 106.7 FM, and we promote the right values. Every weekdays from 8, we kick off with Panorama, which is our current affairs program that airs Mondays to Fridays, and we spotlight topical issues. We dissect them with the aid of specialists, practitioners, people who know their onions, really. And we do that from 8 to 9. From 9 to 10, we cruise around the newspapers and bring you headlines from the front pages of various national dailies. And by we, I mean myself, Lola Meduteni.
My name is Boyega Olani. Thank you so much for keeping it locked here. Splash 106.7 FM. And I don't know how many of us have noticed that there seem to be a fuel scarcity looming. Seemingly, seeing quite a number of...
It's car owners that would know that.
Seen a number of petrol stations shut their gates. But the NNPC is saying not to worry, that there is supply, that there is enough. But it doesn't look like it's on the ground. I know it's been like that in some parts of the north for a week or two now, but it seems to be getting here, and we hope that the NNPC will do all within its powers. If it is that filling stations are ordering the products, then the DPR should do the needful and get their people out so that they can compel these stations to sell the products.
So it doesn't trigger panic buying.
Yes. But good morning. It's time for Panorama. The first segment of the show is what we call
names in the studio and comment on it. So if there's a question you have or there's an opinion you'd like to share, just drop it in the comment section under the live stream feed. We also have WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 0817-555-1067. I suggest you save the WhatsApp number so that you can also drop a comment there and let us know your thoughts on the issue of the day. Good news is our phone lines are now fully in order. All 3 lines are working. Yesterday we had a bit of network difficulty with some of our lines, but now all 3 lines, 0817-444-1067, 0817-555-1067, and 0704-400-1067 are working. So that's great. All right, our guest this morning is running a little late. We have the former Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly, who I believe is the longest serving Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly, if I have it correctly. He'll be joining us to talk about the leadership fracas going on in certain state houses of assembly. At this point, you may have heard of all that is happening, the tussle within the Plateau State House of Assembly in particularly, and all the circumstances surrounding it. So today we're going to analyze it and use it as a talking point to look at, what the intrigues that often happen within the state houses of assembly. So we'll take a short breather and then we'll be back shortly.
Panorama.
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 Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Welcome back. Still Panorama on the Integrity Station, Splash 106.7 FM. And today we're going to be looking at the Plateau State House of Assembly fracas. So let's begin. State houses of assembly are often infamous for political drama and intrigues that to many is indicative of its influence by the executive arm of government. Such was the case on 27th of October when the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly, Ayuba Abok, was summarily impeached after a clandestine meeting held in the wee hours of the morning by 6 to 8 lawmakers, depending on who you ask.
After which, the minority lawmakers installed a new speaker, Yakubu Sonda, presenting him afterwards to Governor Simon Lalong, a development which seemingly confirms the governor's involvement in this shady business. While the speaker can indeed be removed if he's thought to have dropped the ball in any way, the Constitution outlines conditions under which the speaker can be impeached. It must be by two-thirds majority of the House. In this case, not less than 18 members must consent to the impeachment.
In Imo, a change of leadership was also recently effected, and although it purportedly followed due process, certain questions and concerns arise from the circumstances surrounding it. Let us therefore attempt to make sense of the inner workings of state assemblies amidst impeachment saga in Plateau and Imo. And as we told you, you can be a part of the conversation via WhatsApp platform 0817-555-1067 and Facebook where we're live streaming Splash 106.7 FM. Now, there have been a number of developments that have happened since the impeachment of the Plateau State House of Assembly Speaker. Well, to begin with, as we mentioned, the impeachment was reportedly done by 6 lawmakers, or some sources say 8, some say 6, but either 6 or 8, it falls short of the two-thirds requirement by the Constitution to remove a speaker. And so it's been referred to as a hatchet job, as a kangaroo coup, some may say. And if you wonder as to why some fingers are pointing at the governor, claiming that the governor interfered or is involved in the process somewhat, that is because shortly after Nuhu Ayuba Abok, the speaker, well, up until October 27th, now there are, 2 speakers, both of who are claimants to the title of speaker. Shortly after the new speaker, Yakubu Sanda, was installed by these 6 to 8 lawmakers, he was received by the governor, which many consider to be a sort of seal of approval or like an endorsement of the new speaker, despite the circumstances surrounding that. And interestingly, Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State is a lawyer. And so he is ostensibly well acquainted with the dictates of the Constitution that you need a two-thirds majority to impeach a speaker. And
according to a report on the Guardian newspaper as to why the speaker, Abok, was impeached, when Honourable Nuhu Ayuba Abok was elected Speaker, Plateau State House of Assembly, Governor Simon Lalong was lauded for his support in producing the youngest speaker in Nigeria. Abok was a 400-level law student of University of Jos in 2019 and was said to be a mobilizer and youth leader who Lalong thought would be easy to manipulate. The cordial relationship soon turned sour because Abok oftentimes disagreed with Lalong's administrative style, especially his handling of insecurity and other matters that polarized residents of the state. So now, unknown to some, shortly after the mass burial of the victims of a Patula attack in Plateau State, a battle line was drawn between the governor and the speaker. Pro-Lalong group went to town accusing Ayuba of having an ambition to become governor and impeach Lalong from office. Unknown to some APC lawmakers, 14 of them were made to append their signatures to a document affirming their loyalty to the party and denounced rumors making the rounds of their intention to decamp to the People's Democratic Party. And when issues around houses of assembly come up, you start to wonder, when we talk about the independence of the different arms of government, you talk about the executive, the legislature, and of course the judiciary, you see how governors most times, make the houses of assembly, especially the speakers, their puppets, so to say. They're tied to their aprons, strings and all of that. And then you start to wonder if indeed there is any sort of independence in this regard.
You begin to wonder if independence of the legislature is a myth. And, well, who better to ask this question than our guest, who has now joined us, former Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly. We're talking about Honourable SURAJ ADEKUNMBI. He joins us now this morning for Panorama. Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
All right, let's begin that way. Independence of the legislature, particularly the State House of Assembly, is it a myth or is it, is it a reality based on your experience?
Well, so far so good. Want to appreciate the fact that to some extent we've been making some effort. We have made effort, and to a large extent we are still on it. At least before I left office, the autonomy has actually been signed to law by the president, President Muhammadu Buhari, GZFR. And what they are expecting is the execution of the law. And I want to believe that the current legislature, they're on top of it. And to some extent, I believe just a function of time.
So let's talk about the intrigues when it comes to state houses of assembly. Why does it look like there's so much going on, especially when it comes to impeaching speakers, and for a part of government that many expect to be the SI unit of making laws and, of course, upholding these laws? We find houses of assembly members sometimes desperate, not getting the needed quorum to impeach the speaker, but then they still go ahead. Why is it always like that?
Well, the truth about the matter is that the speakers are vulnerable, and speaker of any state House of Assembly is just first among equal. Every member is eligible to be speaker. And you should understand the fact that there are a lot of politics going on among the members. Some could be influenced by the other hands of government, and in that kind of situation, we cannot rule out the possibility of any speaker waking up in the morning and discover that a lot has gone behind him. And I want to believe that what is important at the moment is just for us to do everything within our ability to strengthen that institution and to protect that and the sanctity of that institution, because the only symbol of democracy is that arm of government.
What will it take to fully execute this autonomy? You said that the president has signed an order, sort of giving back into the independence of the legislature, but we've seen many times that laws by themselves are not enough to effect a change. What will it take for the State House of Assembly to perform their oversight functions, wherein they can even check the executive? Is that too much to ask? Is that even feasible at all?
Well, you at least you understand that at the national level, they're enjoying at least 100% autonomy.
Right.
And if that could be happen at that level, if given the opportunity at the state level, there won't be any difference. I recall clearly that in 2018 or 19, a presidential committee was set up for the implementation of the autonomy. And a lot of politics that anybody, it is when you are there that you understand what is actually going on. And of course, sometimes last year, the president gave Executive Order 10. And up to now, the system, the legislature and the judiciary, they are still struggling to get the law executed. Sometimes ago, the person and the Jews went on strike because of this. I think they will have that understanding. Once there is an understanding, honestly, I believe that that autonomy will be given to them, and the right thing will be done by the legislature too. Because whether we like it or not, everything is just for the time being. Everything is, to me, ephemeral. Of course, if somebody who has that, Mr. Speaker, this is the former speaker, somebody that spent 8 years, it's always like that. What is important for us is just to ensure that we do everything that will promote the democratic norms and rules, and ensure that we give dividends of democracy to our people. The legislatures, we are from different constituencies, and we have a role to play in ensuring that we complement the other arms of government in the implementation of the government policies and actions.
But is it a case of this particular arm of government, the state houses of assembly, not knowing how powerful they are in the scheme of things? Because more often than not, we see that it is the governor who controls the legislature, autonomy or not. If you have the capacity to pass the government's budget, sit on certain laws that the government wants passed, I feel that's enough power, like I said, autonomy or not. But oftentimes we find out that once the speaker and the sitting governor start having issues, the problem for the speaker, starts at that very moment, and then you start having all sorts of issues here and there. So is it a case of the House not recognizing its place as, another powerful arm of government?
The three arms of government, they are mutually independent, and everybody, the responsibilities and duties are clearly stated in the Constitution. Of course, you cannot make a law and execute the same law. Or everybody is, the responsibility is clearly stated in the Constitution, and when you look at the whole thing very well, naturally, lawmakers, we are agitators because of the fact that we are representing our various, constituencies, and everybody is coming with, a lot of demands and things that our people are expected from our various constituencies. In that regards, you can only lobby and ensure that the executive, to some extent, align or have some kind of understanding in the execution of what you are requesting from them. And of course, when you look at it very well, like I said earlier, speakers are vulnerable. If we have, that's what we call legislative rascality and executive excessiveness. You see, the executive excess. The truth about it is that any system can, when I say system, I'm talking about the executive arms of government. They could wake up one day and say, give all these things within a seconds. Of course, in the process of making law, there are procedural processes that has to be followed. And in a situation where you feel that this thing should be done this way, and to some extent your colleagues or whatever are not in line with your position, that will create a problem. And in most cases, because of the fact that this thing is tenured, and people will be looking for a situation where with the little time you are given or whatever, you must ensure that you have an impact. And in that regard, there could be issues to some extent. I want to believe that if there is that operation among the arms of government, definitely the masses will enjoy, and nobody will be saying that one is powerful than the other. Our responsibilities is clearly stated in the Constitution.
Okay, let's look at the situation in Imo State, where they also recently had a change in leadership. In Imo, 19 lawmakers out of the total 27 impeached the Speaker of the House and installed a new speaker. Now, in that case, it's different from Plateau in the sense that in Plateau, they didn't have up to the 2/3 number needed to impeach the speaker, but in Imo, they followed due process. Indeed, there was 2/3 that impeached the speaker. However, this change of leadership at the Imo State House of Assembly makes it the third time since the assembly was inaugurated in June 2019 that they're having a speaker. The first speaker, Chiji Collins, was impeached last year. And then the one who was just Paul Emezium took his place, and then he was impeached, and then now they have the third speaker. So this arbitrary change in leadership, in this particular case, there are speculations that, there are some who are pointing fingers at the governor as well, saying that the circumstances that led to the impeachment of the speaker, the recent speaker now, is because he had removed the deputy speaker who enjoys the favor of the governor. So again, the question of governor's involvement in the activities of the State House of Assembly. Now, can impeachment of the speaker happen without the governor's knowledge and involvement?
Well, it depends on the peculiarity of each state. Members of the House of Assembly, to some extent, they know each other. And what is important is that at that level, if you're having a situation whereby we are speaking about ourselves, that will be problems. If there is an issue and we discuss it among ourselves, we speak to ourselves. You know that kind of thing, and having some kind of understanding on how best to carry out our responsibilities. Once there is a problem in any House of Assembly, honestly, don't just allow it to happen. Once there is a dichotomy, you won't enjoy that house. There will be mutual suspicion.
Okay, is it healthy to have this many changes within the span of
2 years?
2 years. Is it this healthy? I mean, you were speaker for 8 years. That's 2 terms. How were you able to do it? And do you think it's healthy for our democracy? Do you think it's simply an exercise in democracy, or you think it's a bit too much?
Well, to me, it's an exercise in our democracy. It's still part of it. Anybody given the opportunity to lead can, if the members feel that they are not comfortable with the style of his leadership, or they are not comfortable with his ways and procedures of doing things, they have every right to do and undo. Like I've said earlier, everybody is eligible. Speaker is just first among equal.
So what was your secret to retain your hold
by
for 8
the
years?
special grace of God,
But before you tell us your secret, did you have similar challenges?
We had issues, a lot of issues, but there are ways we had our moments.
So now, what did you do?
It's just a matter of giving everybody a sense of belonging. It's a matter of giving them respect, individuals' opinions, and it's a matter of let them understand everything as far as the system is concerned. And once you respect them, they will return that respect too. But respect is reciprocal. Oftentimes, yes, you cannot rule out the possibility of having some kind of external influences. And you realize that we are gradually moving to the time. 2023 is around the corner. So we expect a lot of politicking.
So for most times when we have issues like we have in the Plateau State Houses of Assembly, despite what they have done being illegal according to the Constitution, you find out that it sticks because most times if the governor backs it. Why is that?
But to me, it's just mere speculations.
But which part is mere speculation?
Because you said governor backed it.
Well, the governor has received the new speaker. I mean, the new speaker that was installed by the minority lawmakers. He received him, which is seemingly a show of support.
At that level, a lady could be turned to a man. A lady could be turned to a man.
That's a parable.
At that level. Such a situation, once the system is comfortable, once the system is comfortable with, the happening, there's nothing anybody could do.
But should the governor be a part of such illegality?
You see, I wouldn't know. Of course, the governor happens to be former speaker too. Long, am I right?
Right.
So he understands better. He understands better, being a former speaker. And I want to believe that, at least based on the information at my disposal, he is the longest service speaker of that particular
House of Assembly.
Yeah. I think he served for 2 terms.
Right. So what then do you see being the resultant outcome of this saga in the Plateau State House of Assembly? I mean, we've seen bodies and individuals that are prevailing upon the major players in this drama to do the right thing. We've seen Bukola Saraki say that the assembly members as well as the governor should do the right thing. We've seen the Conference of Speakers urging the Nigerian Governors Forum to intervene. We've even seen the former Plateau State Governor, Solomon Jang, as well, saying, that it's unconstitutional. What do you see happening at the end of all of this? Because right now there are 2 people who are claiming that they are both speakers of the State House of Assembly. One who was removed by 6 members of a 24-member House of Assembly. What do you see happening in the end?
You see, what happened in Plateau to me is not strange. We have had a lot of cases like that in the past, and it was resolved too. The implication of having such is that most of these development partners will lose confidence in that kind of system, because every arms of government has a role to play. Once you are having a very peaceful persistence among the 3 arms of government in any state, everybody will be happy to identify with that kind of system. For a situation whereby we are having fracas here and there, of course, development will not, thrive in that kind of environment. Nobody will be ready to touch them with longest pole. So, and to me, it's a kind of, I would want to say much about that, but to some extent, based on the, information around, it's a kind of, how would I put it, national embarrassment.
In your opinion, you were speaker for 8 years. What are possible reasons why members can, be angry at the speaker to say, we feel it is time for this man to go, especially in a case like this when they are ready to do anything, even not follow the Constitution, what the Constitution has stipulated as a way to impeach a speaker? What are some of the things that could possibly spur lawmakers to go this route? You
see, what my own understanding of the whole scenario is very simple. Anytime you wake up in the morning and you still find yourself at that level, then you know that you are still their speaker. Because any day, any moment, lot of things, is probably going on behind the leadership. It's going on behind the leadership of the House. And when you look at it very well, like I've said earlier, everybody is eligible. You understand my point? Everybody is eligible to be speaker. So every day, any moment, member will be, what is so spectacular about you? What is so special about you? I can be there. That feeling could trigger anything.
Right.
So, I've just mentioned about the possibility of having a kind of external, influence, which is normal in any settings.
By external influence, you mean the governor?
I'm not talking about government. It could be anybody.
Okay.
We have
anybody with power?
We have a lot of stakeholders. It could be anybody within the system.
Such a complicated system.
Yeah, it could be anybody.
So how then do we preserve the sanctity of the State House of Assembly?
What is important is that the members should see the opportunity given to them as a privilege. and ensure that they do everything within their ability to protect and preserve that institution. But serving our people is a real privilege. You cannot make yourself anything unless it is ordained by the Almighty God. We are here today by the benevolence of God. So what is important for us is just to ensure that we do everything to respect the collective intelligence of the people that voted us in. People are watching us. We should do everything within our wish to ensure that we represent, we give a good representation. Of course, whether we like it or not, somebody will lead at any given point in time.
Right.
We should have that understanding that at any given point in time, somebody will lead. And the leadership will always count on the cooperation and support of the members. Once you can achieve that, I want to believe that the masses and the state will benefit a lot from such a system.
I would like us to be a bit specific now before we get to our people who I'm sure would also like to contribute. If you can recall, can you point us to one of the major storms of your time as Speaker and how you were able to navigate, if you can still recall?
Of course, I remember that in 2013 we had a fracas in the House of that was March 5th, 2013. We had an issue, and I think within 24 hours we were able to call ourselves together.
So what was the issue at that time?
Well, it's still about leadership issue.
You were going to be impeached?
Yeah, well, not really. Not really. You know, we had I think I suspended some members, and there was a kind of reaction too, which is normal in any settings. And by the special grace of God, we were able to get it resolved within 24 hours.
So how did you resolve it? You brought back the members, you suspended?
Yes, we were at the instance of the then governor. We met, and after that we went back to the assembly and had a meeting. We had a very serious meeting, and we all agreed that in the interest of the state, we should put that behind us. In the interest of the state, we should act as if such a thing never happened.
So the member was recalled?
Yes, we did. So we, and
right.
Everybody, at least to some extent, we learned our lessons.
Okay. I still have one more question in the back for you, but let's open phone lines and, check out comments that we have on Facebook and WhatsApp. If you'd like to call us, the numbers are 0817-444-1067, 0704-400-1067. We also have 0817-555-1067, and that number doubles as our WhatsApp line as well. Let us know what you think of the current saga happening in the Plateau State House of Assembly specifically, but Imo as well is also, being implicated, has a bit of unusual history surrounding the impeachment of its speaker as well. What do you think of this? Do you think it's great for democracy? Do you think, it's a bit too much? Let us know what you think of all that has been said this morning. We have some comments on Facebook. Honourable Ademolake Vanguard says, "Good morning, gentlemen, and the Honourable former Speaker. Even the National Assembly that enjoys the famed autonomy is still being accused of being a rubber stamp. How much more the state assemblies? Haven't seen it all. My question to the former Speaker is that aside from the autonomy, what else is still tying the assemblies to the apron strings of the executives? Is there truly a way out?"
Well, like I've said earlier, the three arms of government are mutually independent.
On paper?
No. In a democratic settings, none exists without order. So in such a situation, our responsibility is clearly stated. You see, I don't know what people are actually expecting from the, lawmaker, from the legislature and the executive. Is it by fighting them that they will know that we are working?
No, not necessarily.
Excuse me. Is it by fighting them? Is it by being confrontational that they will know that we are working. The truth about it is that our responsibility is clearly stated and enunciated in the Constitution. And when you look at it very well, we cannot make any law and still execute same law. I get my point. Because people will be saying that they're supposed to do this, they're supposed to do that. Fine. I haven't done our bit. Are we the one to execute? We are not the one to execute. You see, when we are talking about being attached to the April spring of the executive, I wouldn't know. There must be mutual cooperation. That's the only way we can have development.
Right.
Anything aside that, I wouldn't know what we can call that.
Okay, so mutual cooperation and a harmonious relationship is all well and good, but perhaps what some are expecting, or what many are expecting, is that when the governor is dissatisfied with any lawmaker, what often plays out is that the governor then uses his power as governor to see to the removal of that individual, which shouldn't be so.
Are you talking about the leadership? Because no governor has any power to remove anybody.
Yes.
What that could happen is just for your people to recall you. And you know that kind of process. The process of recalling any member, you know, will be very tedious. It has never happened.
Sometimes a lawmaker is suspended.
Of course, that could be done. It depends.
Governor.
As I said, more oftentimes, such is subjected to the public opinion. I get to my point. People will know clearly that these people are actually outside this boundary. So I want to say this for record purpose. I will recall clearly that in 2012, when we came on board, I think barely a year into our administration, the executive made an announcement for the closure of Traditional University of Education. The House of Assembly under my leadership rose to the occasion. We said no. This school was a creation of law. You can't just wake up one day with mere pronouncement and said no. And we stood our ground. Up till now, TASWED is still there. Doing fine. So if you are rubber stamp or whatever, as we have been addressed, what will have happened? And it's very easy for the members to be blackmailed.
Right.
It's very easy for any leader in our constituency to just a function of just giving a kind of tip-off. Go back to their constituency and tell them, we want to do this. He has been preventing us. Nobody will listen to your own story. Nobody. That's true. Probably they will have completed our 10 lanes. If not for this one that has been disturbing. And in such a situation, you just have to balance the acts.
All right. Let's get to...
apologies, the two lines, have been a bit hasty. Looks like they're back to acting up. So, yes. The number that you can call is 0704 400 1067. Please direct all your calls. If you've been previously trying the other lines, apologies. The only number that we have working right now, it's beyond our control, really. It's a network issue. Is 0704 400 1067. We have this coming as well from Engineer Tayo Adeniran from Abeokuta. He says, good morning, Splash, Boyega Lola, and the Honourable former Speaker. Why is Mr. Honourable Speaker being reluctant to answer some direct questions as a former Speaker? Well, I guess that's a...
Which question? I've not... I think I've been able to explain myself regarding the question put across to me.
Okay, what's up, comments?
What's up? We have a number of comments here. Edwin Abayomi said, it seems there is just one arm of government, while the other two are mere subsidiaries that exist on the benevolence of the head of the powerful arm. I'd like the former speaker to explain why the state assemblies bungled the opportunity for autonomy placed before them. That's from Edward Bayomi. I don't know if you understand.
I just mentioned that the issue of autonomy, execution of the act is still ongoing. Mind you, recall that I'm no longer in the assembly, and I think at the moment everybody is watching. and probably listening to the happening around us. Sometimes last year, the president gave an executive order 10. You see, I'm not in the position to tell you or to say anything regarding the execution of such. And mind you, the law in question is self-execution. It's not something that I wouldn't want to go into that.
But when the
supposed to be self-executed,
when the house, the executive brings the budget, and the executive order 10 is saying that let the budget of the assemblies, be a first line charge, be deducted and be given to them to, conduct their affairs. Can't the houses of assembly stand their ground and say, if this is not done, we won't pass the budget, or maybe lobby with something else? Is that not a possibility?
Well, I wouldn't know what the assembly can do again that contest. I've just mentioned that this thing called for mutual understanding and cooperation. And when maybe in the course of performing their duty and probably the assembly refuses to pass budget or whatever, what will be the reaction from the public? What will be their reactions? You just see that just because they are looking for money, they are looking for this. Is that why you have chosen to...
Back to the blackmail you talked about.
So that is the truth.
All right. Okay. I think the phone lines... So you can try now. We're having challenges with the phone lines, but I think you can try now. We've tried it ourselves, and the 0704-400-1067 is now available. Iribami Shoyinka from Ajebo says, Elubwega and Lola, well done. Good to hear the former Ogun State Assembly speak after a long time. I know he had a lot of issues to resolve with former Governor Ebukile Amosun while he was Speaker, which almost claimed his seat as Speaker. Therefore, I would like to know how smooth is his relationship with Amosun now, even when they now belong to different camps in the APC. Well, maybe not related to issue of the day, but if you would like to answer, then he says, secondly, does he have any political ambition in 2023? That's Ireba Mishoyinka from Ajebo.
Let's hold your answers temporarily and see if we can sneak in this call. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Nicholas.
Yeah, this is Nicholas. I agree with the speaker that the relationship between the governor or the kind of assemblies we have depends on the peculiarity of the state. For example, in Anambra, of Afghan, the house was Philippine. On no means of competition. I agree with him that 6 people impeaching a speaker is not strange. She used the word is not strange. It should be strange. I do not agree that it is good for a governor like him to remove the roof of the assembly. It should be strange. And at the federal level and the state, the first corner was clear. There are some of the responses of the speaker that was incorrect. And I do not agree that a lady should not become a man. It is not. It should be strange. It should be strange. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, as just a speaker for 8 years, did you try to tell your governor about the poor state of the road from Lafenwa to Ayetoro, where I believe you come from? Or were you using jets to go to your village throughout the 8 years? Have a nice day.
Thank you, Nicholas. Have a nice day yourself.
Oh, thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have airstrip at Ayetoro. Probably that will have made it possible for me to be flying to my place with jet. Well, indeed, we tried everything within our reach to do our bit in the assembly, and of course, you have to have one clear understanding that the road in you just mentioned is a federal road. It's a truncated road. Of course, the last administration started the construction of the road probably since 2012. And what was expected of us as the House of Assembly was done throughout the period. Under my leadership, we always made budget provision for most of these projects in question. And I've just mentioned that we cannot make a law and still execute same law. It's very clear. Throughout the period, I pleaded from day one to the last day. So I'll be very happy if I have 6 lane from Lafenwa to Ayetoro, my hometown. Probably I will have moved or parked to Ayetoro by now, because Ayetoro to Abeokuta is just 15 or 18 minutes to the state capital. But because of the fact that the road to some extent is still in the deplorable state, and we need to appreciate the fact that exception of the current administration, the work is still ongoing. The government had, started something in that area. When you get to Olumore, Axis 2,
right,
there's ongoing, construction. That was why I was a little bit late this morning.
Okay.
And regarding my relationship with the former governor, he's still our former governor. Nobody can take that away from him. By God's grace, I happens to be the only speaker that served it in. Nobody can take that away from me too.
Okay, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Abayomi Babalola. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Lord. Good morning, Brother. Good morning, Right Honourable. I want to say that your reign with the former governor can be used as a template for how to relate with somebody like that. There are some things I don't want to say on air. You listen to him, you follow through what he wanted. And for me, I think that goes to show how powerful our governors are. The things that Mr. President cannot try with National Assembly members, governors do it in states and go scot-free. Your time with the former governor, some of us were not happy because we saw it as if you were too party. You have explained some things to us here, and we don't even expect you to take up arms against him. But some decisions were taken, and residents of this state today are still asking those we have assembly that could have gone against these decisions. Now we are in it together.
Mention one of such decisions you're referring to, Abayomi.
Okay, one of such is this 10-lane road from interchange to Shagamu. You compare that to what we had on the Abeokuta Songo Express Road. When the governor was constructing bridges here and there, when he was constructing roads that he called Ogun standard roads that would not need repairs in 30 years, what was the assembly looking at? What has been the input of the assembly? And when questions were being raised, what did the assembly do? Good morning.
All right.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Well,
Abayomi.
thank you for your question and contributions. Well, I need to clear this for record purpose. I wasn't passive in any form. I actually did my job the way I was supposed to do it. And I just mentioned that Speaker is just first among equal. We are talking about 26 House of Assembly members. And through the benevolence of Almighty God, I was the Speaker, and I led them for 8 years. Now, at our level, we have our own responsibilities, like I've mentioned earlier. At the executive level, too, we have commissioners, we have essays, we have consultants that are working with the governor. There's never been a time that we are having a kind of, except for during the budget preparatory time, that we are having a kind of
defense.
No, yes, a kind of town hall meeting or whatever. At their level too, they have these people that are working with them. They have people that are, actually preparing the government policies. I used to ensure that during the budget provision and budget defense, and by the time we pass the budget into law, after some times, it is incumbent on the House to go for the oversight and ensure that what the budget was, how will I put it, to ensure that they actually act based on the budget
that was passed.
Provision.
Right.
So in that context, it's a very clear arrangement.
We'll crave your indulgence to spare us a few more minutes of your time. We'll proceed on a commercial break now. The phone lines are still buzzing, so that when we come back, we'll take a number of calls and then you can react and then we can release you this morning. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Talk radio.
I listen to a lot of talk radio.
I like talk radio.
Welcome to your number one talk radio station.
Fasten your seatbelts.
This is your favorite station.
Splash FM 106.7.
ọ̀rẹ́ jẹ́ mú ọ̀rìnrìn àjò díẹ̀ kí n fọ̀nà tó fi donílẹ̀ ara rẹ̀ hàn pẹ̀lú ìrọ̀rùn. The Way Homes and Properties lọ́nà náà. ilẹ̀ wa gba san díẹ̀díẹ̀ ó lè bẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ̀lú 10,000 naira. a ní The Way Homes máwù kọ́ 400,000. The Way Palm Garden Alamala Barrack 750,000 naira. The Way Royal Garden Ladirin 1.2 million. The Way Estate Kobapẹ́ 400,000. The Way City Alabata Phase 1 150,000 naira. The Way City Alabata Phase 2 100,000 naira. The Way Suits Onigangan 250,000 naira. Nini Ayerose 400,000 naira. Mokoloki 300,000 naira. Ṣàgá Orílẹ̀ ní Akodu 200,000 naira. Ẹ tún láǹfààní láti jẹ àwọn ẹ̀bùn lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ bíi cooker, iron, fan, phone, wall clock, fridge, freezer àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. A ó tún ṣe agreement fún yín lọ́fẹ̀ẹ́ tẹ́ ẹ bá ti sanwó lẹ́yìn tán. A wà ní 24 Nawaridin Road ládojúkọ Nawaridin High School Ìṣàbọ̀ Abẹ́òkúta tàbí kẹ́pẹ́ 08161411190 tàbí 09125242235.
Sea levels as technology dey go na so we dey follow am bumper to bumper for Golden Chance Lotto. Sure you wan try? If you play and win for Golden Chance Lotto, assurance dey for you say you fit collect your money for any sub-agent of Golden Lotto for anywhere for Naija. Another gbedu be say Golden Chance Lotto go fit transfer your money when you win sharply to your account. No tell yourself na your valid ticket na matter for this one o. Omo, e still easy for you to use our USSD code wey be *7005# for MTN line to play. For you to know more, make you log on to www.goldenchancelotto.com. No waste time o, make you play, win and cash out. Golden Chance Lotto na be this way for you to become a millionaire.
kẹ̀rẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ ìgbà máa yí lọ. àgbájọ Homes and Property Nigeria Limited lónìí ìdá 50% làwọn yóò fi lo ìgbà pẹ̀lú àwọn oníbàárà wọn. tẹ́sí tó láǹfààní sí dọ́kúmẹ̀ntì yín ilẹ̀ randa high level ìkìrìkú ìdán ọ̀yá dam precious estate. àwọn ilẹ̀ yìí 200,000 ní tẹ́lẹ̀ báyìí 100,000 lẹ́sàn. ọ̀dẹ́dá unique garden 300,000 ní 150,000 ní báyìí. bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni ilé oko wọn ọ̀pẹ́tì alábàtà òṣèlè àti kọbapẹ́ 60,000 ní tẹ́lẹ̀ báyìí 30,000 lẹ́sàn. ilẹ̀ oko orílẹ̀ ìlúgùn àti mọ́lọ́gẹ̀dẹ̀ 50,000 ní 25,000 lẹ́sàn báyìí pẹ̀lú àǹfààní sí dọ́kúmẹ̀ntì yín. bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ra àwọn ilẹ̀ oko wọ̀nyí ó bá jẹ́ plọ́ọ̀tì mẹ́ta lẹ́ra ẹ láǹfààní sí ìdajì sí. bó sì jẹ́ éèkà lẹ́ra ẹ gbọ́ odidi sí 39 NTA Road ọgbẹ̀ Abẹ́òkúta 07044648338 07044648338 ọjọ́ kẹwàá oṣù kọkànlá láǹfààní yóò pè.
lẹ́nìkan bá ń bi mí ohun tí mo máa ṣe tí bá jọ̀wọ́ tó tówó gidi mo ronú mílíọ̀nù kan náírà àbí ìyẹn ò tí nǹkan kan rárá bóyá pẹ̀lú bíi 5 tàbí 10 mo lè.
mú àlárẹ̀rẹ̀ rẹ ṣẹ pẹ̀lú ìpolongo Airtel Recharge and Blow níbi tí gbogbo èèyàn ti jẹ́ olúborí. ra owó ìpè lójú àmì lọ́sọ̀ọ̀sẹ̀ kó o sì gbádùn ẹ̀bùn owó tó tó 100 mílíọ̀nù náírà. ìpolongo yìí ń wá sópin ní oṣù December ọdún 2021. fún àlàyé síwájú sí tẹ *444*4#.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
àlàáfíà lóògùn ọ̀rọ̀ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ló ní ìṣòro kan tàbí èkejì nínú ara oríṣiríṣi egbògi láti lò àmọ́ tí kò sí ìyàtọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni ọ̀pọ̀ ti jẹ nǹkan tó dùn lápọ̀jù èyí tó fa àkọlùkọgbà nínú ara lójú nọ́kọ̀lẹ́wòrán ti hurun egbògi tá a pè rẹ̀ rè Chapman Ababita egbògi tí wọ́n fi omi ṣe èyí tọkùnrin àtobìnrin lè lò Chapman Ababita ṣetán tí yóò já gbogbo jẹ̀gẹ̀jẹ̀gẹ̀ ara dànù lọ́gán lára bá yá yágíyágí Chapman Ababita kànàkànà máa já tòun tòun pẹ̀lú àgbékalẹ̀ iléeṣẹ́ olúwalúọpẹ́ tradu medical center NAFDAC fòǹtẹ̀lù omi pọ́nbélé ni wọ́n fi ṣe ẹ̀dá Chapman Ababita ò lónìí láti jẹ́ alágbàtà tàbí kó lọ́pọ̀ yanturu ẹ pè sórí aago 081 70026620 081 70026620 Chapman Ababita Oluwalulope Trado Medical Center ló ń ṣe.
We educate. That's why we are respected. We inform. That's why we are loved. More music. We are the best. The Integrity Station. Splash.
106.7.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
We're back on Splash 106.7 FM. This is Panorama, and our issue of the day, the Plateau State House of Assembly and the fracas ongoing there, where we have two claimants to the position of Speaker of the State House of Assembly. We use that as a talking point to examine all the intrigues and the inner workings of state houses of assembly. And for that conversation, we had joining us former Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly, Honourable SURAJ ADEKUNMBI. He's still with us. We've craved his indulgence for a few more minutes so that, he can answer a few more questions, which I'm sure you have. So if you quickly call us now so we can take your comments and contributions. 7444 1067. We're going to keep this really short, so please try to stay within the 1 minute time frame. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Alara is my name, calling from Abeokuta.
Alara, you have a minute. Go ahead.
It is very pertinent for every administration want to be successful in its tenure. I'm talking about the executive. And one of the instruments that will make the administration to be successful is not having any problem from the legislative arm of the government. So, in an attempt to get it done, whatever it takes to buy data over, and the member of government assembly, any government do it. So, the case of our guest is not an exemption in that respect. Likewise, what is happening at the plateau is not an exemption. It might have been on the ground that some workings are going on to ensure that has a smooth landing. So definitely the House of Assembly must work into it to ensure that the government have its way. So no matter what the case may be, it's what is prevailing in the House. The speaker, your guest has asked it.
Alaron, please wrap up your thoughts. Please wrap up your thoughts.
I said that I'm wrapping up this up. So whatever the case may be, it will not have been left out that the government want to have the soft landing, and the way the game have to play what is going on. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for your contribution, Alaro. 0817-444-1067. The lines are fluctuating, but you can try the other ones as well. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Hello, what's your name?
Yeah, Nicholas. Just I forgot one simple question. I would like the speaker to remind us of any of the projects that was dear to his heart that he did for his people who brought him to power.
You see, by the special grace of God, at my instance, 6 lanes of road was constructed at Ayetoro 2. You will recall that during the regime of Chief Victor Obanjo, there was a creation of multi-campuses, and Ayetoro was given the opportunity to have Faculty of Agriculture, which was abrogated during the military turns of some of these campuses. You see, nothing of such will happen under my watch, because these campuses were creation of law. I said somebody facilitated the return of the campus to Ayetoro. By the special grace of God, we are going to have a permanent structure. When you get to Faculty of Agriculture today, and this thing was done based on it was, I'm a project development and implementation professional. Yeah, my this thing was done based on bottom-top approach. Most of this project I embarked upon was done on need assessment. Not that not that I sat in the comfort of my office and giving them what they don't need. I was born and bred in Ayetoro, so I understand the plight of my people. Regardless of misconception and misrepresentation outside there, come to Ayetoro.
Right.
Okay, you understand what I'm talking about.
Let's just race through the comments on WhatsApp so that we can proceed. Surakat Abdulhamid Abiodun said, the fact the lawmakers represent the people and you actually know what and what the people want, don't you think budgets should be prepared by lawmakers to be executed by the executives? On the Laughing Waitero Road and lobbying, well, this question is coming up again, but you've since answered it. Why didn't you lobby, Mr. Governor, for the completion of that road for good 8 years to show confidence in your people that you have?
Yeah, by the special grace of God, I pray to God to spare our life to 2023 and beyond. I have ambition. And that will be discussed later, not on here.
All right, Kende Gabriel said, good morning. Examining Mr. Former Speaker's statement so well that we assume that holding the title of longest serving speaker in a state so far means he diligently played to his principal, so to say, gallery. My question is, what kind of relationship does he have with the current speaker of the state? What could he propose to effect more effective legislation in the House? Kende Gabriel sent that in from Abeokuta. Olajide Olawale said, good morning, Splash. Expected the former speaker will be diplomatic in his response, but the beautiful thing about it all is that we are not fools. We know when we are being deceived. There is no impeachment without the permission of the governor. That is the fact. They are very powerful. The speaker enjoyed some level of relationship with the former governor, so he had a good ride. We are watching. Olajide Olawale there. Nicholas said, for God's sake, we know the history of the Agri campus in Ayetoro. Juxtaposing Lafenwa Ayetoro is Shagamu Kuto, not a federal road. That's from Nicholas again. But I think a question here from Kende Gabriel is that what is your relationship with the current speaker and what would you propose to effect more effective legislation? I think you just answer that so that we can
Well, my
move
relationship
on.
with former speaker is cordial.
With the present speaker.
With the present speaker is very cordial. Please, we work together during the 2 times I sat in. He was my deputy speaker. We enjoyed the relationship and cooperation. And by the special grace of God, the current legislature is actually consolidating the achievement of last legislature in the state.
Thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. Honourable Suraj ADEKUNMBI, 8-year Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly. We appreciate your contribution this morning.
The conversation took an interesting turn because we were actually looking at
Plateau and
Imo,
but then somehow we
looked
ended
like
up focusing on your past
maybe you've not been
accomplishments.
on air for a long time. It looked like many people have had questions they've been waiting to ask you before now. But thank you so much for coming.
All right, with that, we'll take a short break. When we come back, it'll be time for From the Pages. Please stay with us.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
A wonderful morning starts with integrity. The integrity starts with you.
Splash FM 106.7.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Welcome back to Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM. Apologies, the short break became longer because
that we anticipated.
There were a number of conversations we are having, of interesting conversations. So, and Nicholas on WhatsApp said, you can see the speaker's interesting smiles listening to the comments. That's from Nicholas.
I guess he's watching us on Facebook.
All right. But let's get to the next segment of the show now. We've eaten into the time of that segment, but we'll try to make the most of what we have left. And I have with me the Punch newspaper this morning.
I'll check out Premium Times as well as maybe a couple other national dailies.
Let me start with the headlines now. Cooking gas price jumps by 240%. Marketers halt import. Air Force officer arrested over deadly attack on NDA. Uncertainty hangs over new PDP leadership as Secondus approaches Supreme Court. Rice smuggling. Customs tighten Nigeria-Benin Republic borders. Deploy more officers. EFCC whistleblower app stalls at 15,000 downloads. Critics allege data theft. Knox as Maina smiles, waves at associates after 8-year jail term. And another part of this story was videos that surfaced online yesterday of the EFCC and the officers of the Nigerian prisons debating or even arguing an heated argument on who Maina belongs to and who he should follow, after the court finished yesterday. Oshimbajo urges UN, EU to support ECOWAS sanctions on Mali, Guinea coup leaders. ASU laments poor economy, low education budget. Building collapse, Ogun to recommend jail term for erring officials. We need part of recovered loot for our operations. That's according to Malami. Reps commend Navy on performance, keep budget scrutiny. These are some of the headlines on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
From Premium Times, 45 million people teetering on the edge of famine globally. That's according to the World Food Program, the UN World Food Program. ECOWAS imposes sanctions on coup plotters in Guinea and Mali. Anambra election, INEC results so far reflect votes cast, Yaga Africa, and I cannot stress this enough. What happened in Anambra should go a long way in assuaging the fears of those who feel their votes do not count, because that's a narrative that constantly recurs every election cycle. I often hear people say, oh, what is the essence of going out to vote? Our votes do not count. The Anambra election should show you that your votes do count. So please, not only should you believe that yourself, but you should also quell that, the doubts that other people have when they say things like that. More headlines from Premium Times. How Nigerian banks helped Maina to steal pensioners 2 billion naira. That's according to a judge. We also have INEC adjusts voting time for election in Ihiala local government area. We have from Premium Times as well, Defense Minister on insecurity, Nigeria facing new dimensions of threat. Refugee Commission, 1 million Nigerians turned IDPs in 12 months. That's a sad one. Drama as EFCC operatives move to rearrest Maina after conviction. I guess that's the drama that Boyega was referring to. Nasarawa governor nominates overseers for 18 development areas. On Anambra, CDD urges INEC to review its logistics and strategies ahead of 2023. That's something that we touched on in depth yesterday. Lagos APC crisis. PDP delegation visits and woos Lagos for Lagos movement. That's according to an official. These are some of the stories from Premium Times newspaper.
Nigerian Tribune now carries some interesting headlines. 2023, APC governors reject direct primary option. Say NAS resolution against executive order, justified delay in convention. NDA attack, controversy over alleged arrest of Nigerian Air Force officer. Some more headlines now. Let me quickly run through. Deduction of $418 million Paris Club unlawful, contrary to public policy and morality, NGF tells federal government. Court sentences Maina to 8 years imprisonment for 2.1 billion naira fraud.
From the Nation newspaper, governors Malami's role in Paris club refund suspects. Also from the Nation newspaper, let me see. NCC targets 632 billion revenue in 2022, and this next headline is something that Boyega mentioned at the beginning of the show. We have over 1.7 billion liters of petrol. That's the NNPC there, probably trying to assuage buyers and not to panic buy. Let me move now to Vanguard newspaper and see if there are interesting headlines there as well. Federal government, food insecurity now a national threat. How Imo speaker was impeached. The Vanguard newspaper has that there. Legalization of marijuana, danger Nigerian government must avoid. This is according to Thompson. On Plateau, hold Lalong responsible for crisis, says PDP, as police seal local government secretariat. And these are a few stories from the Vanguard newspaper. There's this one additional one. It's the governor of Ogun State warning building officials that if they compromise standards and safety, they will go to jail.
All right, those are the headlines, and we have joining us now for some analysis of these stories. Kola Abiola joins us live in the studio this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
And apologies for keeping you waiting. So let's start with this issue concerning Maina. The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja on Monday sentenced the former chairman of the defunct Pension Reform Task Force, Abdulrasheed Maina, to a total of 61 years imprisonment for defrauding the federal government of the sum of 2.1 billion naira. But it's the terms are to run concurrently, so that means it will only serve 8 years in prison. This was celebrated, especially by members of the APC, as a win for the anti-corruption fight of President Muhammadu Buhari. But 8 years imprisonment for a fraud of 2.1 billion naira, would you say it is commensurate?
Let's just say that justice has been served, but has justice been fully served? Is a question that we'll continue to ask ourselves for a very long time. And this was a man that jumped bail, that had to go and be looked for. Warrant was issued for him to be brought back to the court to face justice. And this was the same person that the justice was very, very lenient with. Because we have seen cases. I remember some years back in this Ishabo court, I read of somebody that was sentenced to 16 years imprisonment for stealing a widow. I wonder what a widow, the amount of a widow, the volume of a widow that will amount to 2 billion. And you know, normally some judges will say that having been remorseful throughout the period of your standing trial, they are tempering justice with mercy. Can we say that Mena was remorseful during those period with his antecedent? So that's why I said, you know, there's this Chinese saying that you should not only be honest, you should be seen to be honest. As this being an honest and good justice, that's why I said justice has been served, but as full justice been served.
Well, let me read some more. The sentences that run concurrently, just like I said, which implied that Maina would spend only 8 years in jail from October 26, 2019, which means he has only 5 years left to be in jail. The court, however, ordered the forfeiture of Maina's 3 landed properties in Abuja and his bulletproof jeeps and other vehicles. They were to be auctioned and the proceeds paid into the federal government account. His company, the Common Input and Property Investments, was ordered to refund the sum of 1.8 billion naira and $537,983 within 90 days to the federal government. Well, many people spoke about how he was smiling, you know, at the point of being whisked away from the court premises. But
although there is there's a paragraph here, sentence here, where Justice Abang stressed that though the law made provision for a maximum of 14 years for the offense that was committed by the defendants, He said he was moved by Mina's plea for mercy.
That's why I said somebody that is, I don't know the kind of glasses or the kind of eyes that the judge had on that day that would make Mina look like somebody that was pleading for mercy. With his antecedents, somebody that is going to be merciful, to want to face the law, having air, will not run away. At the point he made a senator go to jail for absconding. Is this kind of person? Is this the same kind of person that you say you want to be merciful to? So it calls to question if we don't have a law for the high and mighty and another set of law for the downtrodden. I won't be surprised if Mina spend the 5 years in one posh hospital saying that health challenge, and he will be in the hospital and eventually somebody will grant him amnesty. Mina is supposed to be used, or some of these people are supposed to be used as a deterrent for people that wants to that find themselves in a position of authority and want to abuse that thing. If Mina has been given the maximum sentence and he has been made to refund everything, that even coming out after 14 years, he will know that, yes, I have erred against my nation, I have abused the privilege that they have given to me. The person taking over from him or the person getting into another position of responsibility will look at him and make an example. Do I want to go through this? But we haven't made deterrent of ourselves. We have just said, okay, if you do it and you can spread your wing around, you have soft landing. And they have always given themselves soft landing. So, superficially, justice has been served. That's what they want us, and that's why they are celebrating that. I don't know what is to be celebrated, that the APC are celebrating that they are fighting corruption. If we put up the profile of corrupt cases that we have on ground with their members, they will know that they have abysmally failed.
And what do you make of the drama between the EFCC and operators of Nigerian Prison Service?
That's why I said I won't be surprised if Mena eventually spend 5 years in the hospital, because we know that if you have been sentenced, you are supposed to go to prison. Maybe EFCC are providing him a very comfortable place, and they still want to provide him. I don't know. Once an accused has been sentenced, it now goes beyond the EFCC. Why would anybody have to come and tell any sane mind that you should release him to the correctional officers? So it goes to tell us that something is happening. Mena will be more comfortable with EFCC, or until we arrange a very comfortable place for him, post him outside of Kuja. I wish they could post Mena to Oba prison, so that you can come and use some of his wealth to renovate that place for people that are there. So, for me, yes, they have done something, but have they actually done the real thing?
This reminds me of a particular investigative report by Fisayo Shoyombo when he got himself arrested, got sent to the Ikoyi prison, and then he came back and told us that people actually pay for comfortable accommodation at the Ikoyi prisons. You might want to check that out. I know it was published last year or 2 years ago. And he said a lot in that report, especially how you can't pay for everything.
I used to do prison ministry, so I can tell you for a fact that he wasn't lying. You see a lot of things that happen in the prison in Nigeria, and you wonder if we really have a country, or we really have authorities that are in charge of these places.
Well, they are now called correctional centers, so maybe something has changed or something has been corrected.
But it's not far away. Take a visit there. Or this Ibarra is here. Take a visit there and see what is happening there, and see how people live, and see what exactly are they correcting.
Well, another part of the report is that 2 banks, were involved, and the justice said the operating licenses ought to be seized for allowing themselves to be used to defraud the pensioners, some of whom have died while waiting for pension. So on one hand, you're letting off the main accused, with a slap on the wrist, so to say, and then you're also canvassing for 2 banks to have the operating licenses, ceased because they allow themselves to be used to defraud the pensioners. Can't make sense of that. But let's
does seem a little disproportionate. Okay, before I take this next story, it has something to do with cooking gas. There's I want to expatiate more on the adjustment of the voting time in Anambra. Apparently, voting is supposed to begin at 10 a.m. today and end at 4 p.m., which is unusual. Usually, elections start earlier than 10 and end by 2. But the INEC commissioner in charge of information and voter education, Festus Okoye, said the decision to adjust the voting time was taken following a careful review of the prevailing situation in Anambra State. And so that's for everyone who's interested in what's going on in Anambra State. And now for cooking gas. Cooking gas price jumps by 240%. Marketers halt imports. It says importers of liquefied petroleum gas, popularly called cooking gas, have stopped importing the commodity. Investigations also show that the cost of the product increased by 240% for 12.5 kg, jumping from 3,000 to 10,000 naira 200 between January and October. About 65% of LPG is imported into Nigeria, while domestic production accounts for 35%. Hence, the halt in imports could further shoot up cooking gas price if the situation is not addressed. It's hard to imagine a further shoot up because, as it is, it's even gone beyond it's gone beyond the budget of many people for what they could afford at the beginning of the year and what they can afford now. But this could further worsen the situation. What's your take on this?
You know, when June 12 was announced, people said hope has been dashed. I think now it is hopelessly becoming hopeless to continue to begin to think that something good can come out of this government or come out of this nation. We say we have LNG, and LNG are in the business of exporting. What are they actually exporting when we really don't have enough? I don't know if it is another form of gas that LNG is exporting. I don't know what kind of gas they export. But what is the rationale behind a farmer that harvests and does not keep any seed for the next planting season? The human capacity is the only thing that this country seems to have that can turn around things. And then when you now traumatize this human capacity, human resources, there's nothing that is enjoyable in this country at the moment. Everything seems to be way beyond the poor man's reach. So recently you will have seen pictures of a pot divided into two so that you can cook two simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And this kind of picture, the Lai Mohammed of this world and the Tolo Glaces of this world will not see this, but they will continue to want to harass people with the things that they think the government is doing that is not actually making meaningful impact in the life of people. I would have expected that these people will see this kind of pictures, see the suffering that an average Nigerian is going through, and be able to bring in some palliative, not palliative about money that we really don't know where they end to, but real life thing that will get into that will affect the life of ordinary Nigerians.
Mm-hmm. There are many angles to this. I mean, this is even against the backdrop of the World Food Program showing that an additional 3 million people are now on the edge of famine globally. That makes the total number 45 million people who are now living on the edge of famine globally. And this is even as the federal government itself admits that food insecurity is now a national threat. So we're seeing inflation hitting us at all ends. But according to the executive secretary of the Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers, the reintroduction of customs duty and value-added tax on imported LPG were the basic reasons for the halt in its imports by importers. Was that a wise or sound decision for the federal government to make at a time when we're being hit on all ends by inflation?
I think if you look at the policies of this government, you want to think that very soon this government will tax the air we breathe in, if they are allowed to do that, because they have not shown any creative idea in trying to create wealth for the government.
Right.
Rather, they have just feel that they can impose taxes and levies on Nigerians to continue to increase their capital base.
Interesting.
Let's check out this story now. Building collapse, Ogun to recommend jail time for erring officials. Ogun State Governor Prince Dakwabiod on Monday said his administration would prepare a law that will recommend jail terms for heads of building control agencies if a building collapses in the state under their watch. The governor disclosed this yesterday, and he said, "I'm coming up with a law that will send workers in the building industry to prison. Workers in the agency responsible for building control are susceptible to taking bribes. I'm going to ensure that there is something in our law that we send heads of building control agency to prison if a building collapses in Ogun State under their watch." Is this the way to go?
As much as I would have loved the pronouncement of the governor. I'm still worried that we have a lot of pronouncement that is not backed by action. Governors and governments have made several pronouncements about fail. This is not the first time buildings are going to fall. I read something about that. They did a study about 13 years, more than 160-something buildings that have collapsed. Not collapsed. Not one person has been prosecuted. People have died. People have been maimed. People have been injured. So all those people are seen to have died for nothing or to have been maimed for nothing. And these people that have perpetrated that act, either willfully or not, are going scot-free, and they will go ahead and do something else again, and nothing will happen. So it is not enough for government to say all these things, but let government use some people as scapegoat. Let governments be seen to not just talk, but when the stick is needed to be used, they should use it. And I think at this point, government has to bring in the professionals. If some people will just say maybe they have helped in building a bungalow, or they have supervised a block of classroom, and before you know it, they become a builder. I want to build 3-story building. I want to build 4-story building. The dynamics of building a classroom or a bungalow is different from the technicalities involved in. So when professionals are not involved, then there is. And when professionals are involved, if they know that their license can be seized, like we have some professions in Nigeria that are strictly regulated, that you cannot just go in there, though there are still some bad elements, but you know they are strictly regulated, and any errors from you, you know that you suffer the consequences. So if most of the profession in this industry and some other industry are professionalized, that if you err, your license can be suspended and you might not be able to work in that field anywhere in Nigeria. To the extent that even if you are a builder, a civil engineer, a structural engineer, you have one defect, and they say they cannot find you even 100 meters circumference around any construction building. You cannot be involved at all. You know that having studied for so long, you are in jeopardy. Everybody will do the right thing. So the government should not only talk, the government should act. Let us see that they are acting. And punishment is not to kill, but meant as a deterrent for people that might want to do that or are willing to do that. So when people see this is what is going to happen to me, people will back down. But we are not seeing the deterrent. We're just seeing a pat on the back.
All right, let's talk about the over 1 million Nigerians who have been internally displaced in the past 12 months. That's according to the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. This was disclosed by the Federal Commissioner of the NCFRMI, who disclosed this while defending the budget of her agency before the House of Reps Committee on Internally Displaced Persons. She told the committee that the total number of internally displaced persons in Nigeria is about 3 million. This is worrisome, not only because she's trying to get, the committee to approve an increase in the budgets that can then cater for the new number, the number that has spiked for internally displaced persons, but this is amid even shrinking revenue from the government. So we need more money to cater for new internally displaced persons, but we do not have enough money to go around. And the fact that we have 1 million people who are displaced within a year, that's telling of our security situation. What do you think?
We are going into an election year. Money is needed to fund the election.
You don't believe there are 1 million people who are displaced within 1 year, given the spate of security attacks we've seen?
I'll return the question to you. Do you believe in the school feeding program? How many lives are the school feeding program affected? And how much has been budgeted or has been sunk into that project? You see, that's idea is not the problem of Nigeria. But the moment that idea comes to the table, everybody at the position of authority see it as an avenue to milk and suck the nation. It is a shame that we have internally displaced people in Nigeria. And I have known people that have been to that camp, and they will tell you that it is not the best of place that any human being want to continually stay. And even this money that has been allocated to them, have they been pumped into the camp? If you have judiciously spent money that has been allocated to you in the past, well, then you can ask for more based on what you have done. The one that you have been given, what have you done with it? Recently in the budget, they are saying 1,000 naira per day for prisoners. Please, journalists can go see what they give these prisoners as food, if it amounts to 1,000. And if this kind of food will make anybody wants to live a correct life and not go back to bad life. So these are the things that we're saying. If you don't want us to be skeptical of everything or every of your actions, you need to always come to us to let us see that you are being truthful in what you are doing. But this government and all the money that they are allocating for themselves have not been seen to be used judiciously. So that's why people are skeptical that, okay, this budget is to pile up money for election so that they can bankroll themselves.
Well, a member of the House of Reps committee queried the duplication of responsibilities by NEMA, National Emergency Management Agency, NCFRMI, and the Northeast Development Commission, saying most of the line items in the budgets of NCFRMI are also replicated in those agencies. Also questioning the 25 million naira annual rents paid for the headquarters of NCFRMI, urging the commission to approach the president for one of the seized properties. It also queried NCFRMI for not completing most of the projects in its budget despite over 60% of funds released. So maybe that points to some of what you're saying about credibility and transparency.
Maybe you are just seeing only these two. We have more than a decade or more than 20, 30 agencies that are duplicate. And I think the Rosanye panel was recommended that some of these agencies should be merged. Some agencies you have not heard of their name and you wonder the kind of job they are doing, and everybody seems to be collecting money for the same purposes and functions. So if all these things have been looked, a government that is saying that they don't have money, and you have agency that seems, even when they are not doing the same thing, seems to be doing the same thing. If you merge them together, you are removing some cost. But this government is not thinking about cutting costs, they are thinking about taxing Nigerians.
But Kola, even if that number may be inflated, we cannot deny that there's been an increase in security attacks this year than we have seen in past years.
There's been an increase in
security attacks. I mean, the security situation has worsened seemingly in the last 1 year than we've seen in recent years.
The security situation has been worsening in Nigeria since 2015. It was not as this terrible, and it is getting bad every day. It is getting bad every day, even with the amount of money that has been pumped into the security agencies and every other thing.
So it stands to reason then that there will be a spike as well in the number of internally displaced persons.
Of course, when a community is attacked, Kaduna State has started again, and you see a low and then a high, and some of these states have been perpetually like that. So when the community is attacked, people run for their life. Their properties and their houses are burnt. They will probably find a place in the IDP camps to go to. And so if the government, that's why some people say that the method and the high-handedness that the federal government has used for IPOB and what's this man called? Sunday Igboho. If this high-handedness have been used on the people they call bandits, maybe we will have moved a bit from where we are. The government should place more emphasis on the bandits and be able to put them where they belong. If the agencies have acted in the language of the president, that will show you in the language they understand. If that's how the bandits have been treated, I think more lives, more communities will have been saved, and not treating iPod and the Sunday Igbohos of this world in the language they understand and leaving some people in the language they don't understand. Everybody has to be equal before the law.
All right, let's open phone lines now. 0817-444-1067, 0817-555-1067. Please keep your comments short if you can. WhatsApp is 0817-555-1067, and Facebook is Splash FM 106.7. Hello, good morning. We lost that call. Do well and call us back.
On Facebook, Oduwalida Ishason says, good morning all. Senator Jules Okadu and other corrupt, politically exposed persons. Okay, let's take this call before I continue. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Flash.
Babari.
I'm calling from Ogun. I want to comment on this hike in the price of cooking gas and the hypocrisy about NMPC saying not petrol available at their own dump in know why there is this more panic. But then if you look at some of because the majority of the petrol stations in our axis, they are locked. And he said it's panic buy. So gas, honestly, recently I have had one radio and television activity. So when they were discussing about this hike in gas, cooking gas, I have to that I have never heard before that the poverty president of Nigeria. So initially I was surprised, poverty president of Nigeria. Now that a lot of Nigerians have been pushed to the world. There's a lot of poverty in the land. Maybe that was Alhaji Omar referred to the poverty president of Nigeria. The NNPC is students and this hypocrisy of a thing. If there are no petrol, the majority of urban petrol stations, even NNPC, Mobile have no petrol. So what is the NNPC talking about? Thank you.
Thank you.
I did mention this morning as well because that's also my axis. A number of, if not all, even petrol stations on that axis are locked.
Well, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation yesterday advised consumers not to engage in panic buying of premium motor spirits, PMS, as
that's
it has
exactly
about
what
1.7.
Babari is saying, that you're asking us not to panic
liters.
buy, but filling stations are locked. Well, let's get back to the phone lines now.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Nicholas.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We have fallen from so great a height, and we have lost the vision of the height we have fallen from. My dad does not know what has happened to Nigerian families whose breadwinners are in the grave. Some are in the intensive care units of our federal medical centers, and he's smiling as if he just won an election. There are some young men and women in Nigerian prisons who don't know why they are there. Some are there for 10 years just for stealing phones. And our security agencies are dragging him as if he's a beauty queen. Because those Ogun in the past 10 years, go and check his rulings. They are always financial. Ogo, money, millions. On Iman, Hadia Iman, if we can approve her, Hadia Zainab and Hadia and Sadia, I think we should approve Hadia Iman. I'm sure she will not be brought out if it's bad. And we hope it should be brought about the widows and the children who are suffering those camps. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas, for your contribution.
Nicholas sounds like he's under the code, but
on Facebook, Oduwale Darishason says, Senator Ojius Okalo and other corrupt, politically exposed persons are enjoying their loot with the active support of our corrupt judicial system. Maina should refund the money he embezzled to the Treasury, and all his assets should be forfeited to the federal government. The appeal or Supreme Court will soon release him on technical grounds. Corruption Unlimited. Hello, good morning. Please turn off your radio so we can hear you clearly. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Mr. Felix. I'm calling from Adekuta.
Mr. Felix, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just want to commend the effort of our resource person in the house and everyone there. You are doing a very good job.
Thank you.
What I want to say this morning is just like every other person has been saying. I want to suggest that this government empower a bit of ideas on how to move this nation forward. Because all our cries over the radio, over television, everywhere, it's like the whole thing is falling on a deaf ear. They are not hearing. And things keep on increasing, allocating on daily basis. And nobody is even looking for a way that will already the suffering of the people. And we say that we have government. The only thing I'm suggesting is that this APC government at all levels, Nigerians that are affected by all these draconic laws, to try to reject them in 2023 at all levels. That is the only way we can pay them back. Because they are doing their own now and they are not feeling the pain. They don't even listen to anybody. They don't know that people are suffering. So we pharmacists that are bearing the brunt of it should be ready with our PVCs in 2023 to reject them as a payback to the evil that they are doing to us. That is my own take this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Felix, for your contribution.
Joel on WhatsApp said, good morning to you all. As regards the former speaker, I am not satisfied with all that is said. He has been so evasive. As regards Maina's sentences, I am disappointed in the judiciary for such a judgment. This kind of justice only says that this country is not serious about fighting corruption. Imagine somebody being sentenced to more than 15 or so years for stealing vegetable. This kind of judgment only shows that we are encouraging corruption. May God help us all. That's from Olajuwon from Itaoshin, I believe, except if you have moved to location because you've stopped adding Itaoshin to your messages. And Nicholas said, how can you not be down with code in a country where the Supreme... Oh, okay, I'm having issues getting the rest of that message, but we'll get it. Hello, good morning.
Abayomi,
good morning to you.
On the judgment given to Mena, in fairness to the judge, I think he has done the right thing. Because he even said it that the conviction had a maximum of 14 years. And he did what he can for each of the charge. We cannot say that he should serve 8 years for one charge, now start serving 6 years for another charge, now start serving 5 years for another charge. That is how it is done. You have to run it concurrently. But what is important for me are, one, is he going to refund that money? It's not enough to just send him to jail and when he comes back, he will come back and enjoy that loot. Is he going to refund that money? I think that is very important.
The court has asked that the money be refunded. Whether it will be done is now a different case.
Let's hope he returns the money. That is what is important for me. Thank you. Good
Sir,
morning.
for somebody that is not remorseful during your trial, what is the point of not giving him the maximum sentence for each of the crime? So if you had gotten 14, you will have served 14 years.
I agree. For them, at least we have gotten something.
Well, that was the same thing Abiola said. But let's run through comments now as we prepare to wrap up. Nicholas said, how can you not be under the code in a country where the Supreme Court may soon declare number 4 as number 1 in Anambra and gas prices rising? That's coming from Nicholas. I'm sure that's not why you're under the code, but okay.
That's a stretch, but then again, we've seen stranger things happen.
Yes. When you hear inconclusive elections as a Nigerian, you need to be afraid. You need to be afraid.
Ayadeshorunke from Abeokuta said, good morning on Panorama. It is confirmed by the Bible that when evil or wrong is not speedily punished with not just judgment but justice implemented, the heart of men will tilt to doing evil. Be it on corruption or building regulations, it will remain the same thing. Thank you very much, Ayadeshorunke, for your message.
And Ifeanyi Uchuku on Facebook says, all these politicians are very funny. All right, well, thank you, everyone, for your contribution. And thank you to Kola Abiola for your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Panorama will return tomorrow from 8 a.m. I'll be back with Benga Fayel. In the meantime, as always, register for your PVC. If you need to transfer it, do so. If your card has been defaced, make sure you replace it. Do all you need to do and encourage everyone around you as well to register for their PVC because 2023 is coming. My name is Lola Meduteni.
Thank you for your time this morning. My name is Goyega Olaniye. Have a great day.